This is the Ultimate Dallas Sports Show, sponsored by your North Texas Chevy dealers. Together, let's drive.
Welcome everyone to the show. Yours truly, Joe Trahan, with the producer extraordinaire, Andrew Cely. It's that time of night. It's time for the Ultimate Dallas Sports Show. The 2026 Milan-Cortina games are in the books. And did Team USA as a whole ever save their best for last? What a bang. Tell us what you got prepared for us tonight, Andrew.
Well, I'm prepared to soak in every ounce of the Olympics because we know after this there's always going to be a bit of a lull in the sports calendar. It's been so nice to have every day just jam-packed with quality sports content. But we got a lot to get into, specifically today with what's on the show.
Here's What's on the Show, sponsored by NFM.
It was no miracle this time, but it was still just as impressive. Team USA is golden after a thrilling win over Canada to end the Milan Winter Olympics and complete a sweep of the hockey gold medals in men's and women's. We'll recap an epic day for American hockey in totality, plus a new top 5 based on a suggestion from our sports director, the top 5 broadcast calls in sports history. Joe, that's what's on the show. Now, who's on the show?
All right, we got our own Mike Leslie. He's in the house as well, and also a special guest. And I got to peel the curtain back just a little because I put, like, it wasn't the bat signal, it was the sports Sturm signal. I put it out there, and our sports superhero showed up for us tonight. The great Bob Sturm from the Ticket 1310 is on the show tonight. And listen, Sturminator, I got to start with you, and this is why, because I'm on your Sturm stack, by the way. I don't know if you knew that or not, but and I saw what you said, the fact that you have been watching and have watched every Team USA game for 46 years in Olympic competition. First of all, I'm not surprised at all because you are sports Sturm, but you and I have that in common in terms of that 1980 Olympics was one of those moments that I can remember in my childhood, and it fostered my love of sport. So with that as a backdrop, man, I want your initial reaction once Jack Hughes went 5-hole and what it meant to you.
Well, my initial reaction is I ran around my house like a nut. It was a happy day, my friend. It's been a long time coming, and for those of us who love the Miracle on Ice like it's the happiest sports story of our life, it is kind of nice to, have another record to play, have another song to play at our concert. Is that okay? We won a game in 1980, we won several games in 1980, but that we had then the golden generation of American hockey players, and that was Mike Modano and Chris Chelios and that crew, which were awesome, but they just never quite were able to win anything of great substance at that point. And so, we kind of felt like we missed it there. Patrick Kane's group went through and didn't really win anything. And we would always play Canada to a point where we could be proud of ourselves, but never actually close the deal. So today was just the best to see these guys deliver like they did and just, really make us all proud of the way American hockey, grabbed another gold. It was fantastic.
Yeah, and that's a great point, right? Because Team USA has acquitted themselves so well, but getting over that hump, beating up on the team that has beat up on you so many times when it really came down to it was just incredible to see. I think this is going to be one of those sports moments where you might remember where you were. So I'll ask you, Mike, where were you? What were you doing? Early on a Sunday, were the girls still asleep? How'd you take it all in?
Joe, I set an alarm for 7:05 this morning and woke up at 7:03 and turned the thing off because I was ready to go. It was coursing through, I think, all of us. And I got lucky because Andrew and I are similar in this. We weren't alive for the 1980 games. We don't have that memory point, and I don't mean to age anybody.
I'm happy to be on that side of the ledger. That's a compliment. I like
that. For us, all it is the stories that we heard. And I got personally lucky in the fact that my father happened to be in town from New York this weekend. So I was sitting on the couch next to him, watching this game, listening to his stories about what it was like to watch the game in 1980 and to live that moment. And then to see his reaction, even above and beyond my own reaction when Hughes scored in overtime, was awesome. It was awesome. And to have my two kids are sitting there. I mean, they're 4.5 and 1.5. It meant nothing to them, but we tried to at least kind of communicate to them like, hey, this was really cool, even though you were playing with your Tonka trucks and with your Barbies. But I promise you what just happened was really, really cool. And we'll be able to talk about that for a very long time, because it was one of those moments that you're going to remember and you're going to think back upon, oh, that's right, we were here and we were doing this when we saw that moment happen.
Yeah, what about you, Andrew? Where were you? What were you doing? And how'd you take it in?
I was at home with the folks, having TV on. We've been following the Olympics nonstop basically this entire time, so my sleep schedule is completely shot. I took a nap afterward. I'm barely hanging on at this point, 2 straight weeks of getting up at 3 a.m. trying to follow everything. That being said, the thing that came to mind the most, and this is as someone who recently visited the Hockey Hall of Fame and saw the international exhibit, because they split it up between NHL and international, and growing up and hearing the stories of the 80 team and obviously watching Miracle the movie and getting all of that kind of pomp and circumstance about it, I was really shocked seeing the exhibit for it as just another benchmark in a long history of hockey. And it is surrounded by Russia. Like they dominated that entire section, deservedly so, and they are held to a very high regard internationally. So to me, it's almost feeling like finally you have another stamp on that ledger. It's not just the one exhibit in that hallway anymore. You can sit there and say, we are up there with the Canadas and with Russia and deserve an extra spot now on that resume. And quite frankly, it's long overdue. It's like we always talk about the Miami Dolphins kind of popping their champagne. At some point, someone's got to be the next group to be able to do it, and it was nice to actually experience that in person this time, Joe.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was great stuff. And I do think that, and since Bob and I are the senior members of the panel, I may have even been in double digits back in 1980. I was actually 11 years old back then, to full transparency. But there's a certain, and Bob, I think you can attest to this. In 1980, in terms of that adrenaline that courses through your veins when you have these sports moments, it was different when you heard Al Michaels ask you if you believed in miracles. Because for that split second, absolutely, I believe in miracles, because I just saw one.
Yeah, and even back then, though, like hockey was kind of a foreign language, and you know, it kind of introduced me to hockey. And yes, being a Wisconsin kid, that's not that crazy a concept, but you know, the NHL was kind of a rumor, at least where I lived. It wasn't really available on TV. We didn't have a team, and we still don't have a team in Wisconsin. But you know, I mean, it's just this weird relationship with the sport where that's kind of the first chapter you read in your book of hockey, and I've been a diehard hockey guy ever since. I love that sport, and it always bugged me that we weren't very good at it, and the, you know, I know the U.S. hockey was inspired by 1980, but that next generation, like I said, we were supposed to be able to compete with everybody, and we had great individuals, but never a great team. And so I think that is a story here about the 26 team, because a lot of people, especially in Dallas, are mad that we didn't take the best players. And I think, to steal a Herb Brooks-ism from the movie itself, we're taking the best players. We're taking the right players. We are building a team, and that's not a slight on the other guys, but I really think this was a quality team that we saw over 2 weeks. Everyone had a role, and everyone did their role, and that's what's so special about this.
Yeah, I do think it's incredibly special. All right, great. We're going to take a quick break here, but we got plenty more hockey coming up, because there's more role talk, because I do want to talk about Jake Ottinger, but then we got to dive back into that game a little bit before we let it go, because it was incredible sports theater, and that's what we have for you coming up next on the Ultimate Dallas Sports Show.
Today's headlines, sponsored by your North Texas Chevy dealers.
Stick taps for Team Finland, who took home bronze in this year's Olympic Games. 4 current Stars players, Mikko Rantanen, Roope Hintz, Esa Lindell, and Miro Heiskanen, are all bringing home hardware. And the Mavs got their first win in a month. Not a typo. 134-130 in Indiana. All right, so let's get into the parts of the game that we remember the most. For me, it's that section in the middle part of the third period. McKinnon has a wide open net that he whiffs on, and he will be haunted by that for the rest of his days. Moments later, you have 7 players on the ice, somehow not called. They get away with it, And then the very next, like, moments later, Canada's got a net mouth scramble and McAvoy's punching at the puck to try and keep it out. This thing was on a razor's edge the entire time, Joe. And realistically, it all came down to Hellebuck having one of the games of his life.
Well, that's the thing, right? It was that great sports theater that we crave, right? These teams are rivals, and they know each other incredibly well. And it felt like the games were raised for both sides, and that's the thing I'll remember. Listen, I wanted to see Jake Oettinger more. But man, Connor Hellebuck, what can you say? I mean, what he did was ridiculous. He transformed into this human brick wall, impenetrable. I mean, it was exactly the kind of championship performance that we've seen before, but perhaps not by, the Americans for a long time. And that's what really stuck out for me. Bob, what about you?
Yeah, well, to me, it is Hellebuck, and what's incredible about it is he's been an unbelievable goaltender for his entire career. But the playoff lack of success has been his bugaboo with Winnipeg. And what's great about this story is Canada was sort of fretting that they did not have a goaltender. Even though in the Four Nations we saw Jordan Binnington go up against Hellebuck, and he did very, very well. And Binnington's a heck of a goalie, but he's not Connor Hellebuck. And that's the thing. There were the last 4 NHL MVPs. 2 were on the U.S. Austin Matthews and Connor Hellebuck. 2 were on Canada, of course, with McDavid and McKinnon. And they're obviously unbelievable players. But if our best players could be our best players, maybe we would have this chance. And then, of course, those Hughes boys. Quinn Hughes is unbelievable, and it's possible we'll have to deal with him for 2 weeks coming up in April if you're a Stars fan. Not looking forward to that, but I'm so happy that he's an American. And then, really, the story of the tournament was the breakout of Jack Hughes, the first pick in the draft in his year. An exceptional player, and they look like clones of each other, if you ask me. The way they carry the puck, the way they skate, even the way their hair is out of the and I'm a hair specialist, as you guys know. So just to see different guys step up, it was such a treat.
Yeah, it was a treat, no doubt about that. And then, Mike, take me through the double minor on Canada, and then Team USA kind of doesn't score, and then they get the penalty. What was going through your mind at that point?
I think, as we were talking about a little bit during the commercial break, that was the moment that I think we all kind of felt like, here we go again. Like, this is going to happen again. The dam is going to break. It felt like they were just waiting for the moment where Canada was going to finally break through. And when you give away that opportunity on the double minor, I think everybody kind of threw their hands up like, all right, this isn't going to happen. So for the fact that they even got to overtime felt like a win, because they finally got through and they were able to live through that moment and not throw the thing away despite missing that chance. It was a complete sigh of relief. And just to circle back for a moment to the Connor Hellebuck of it all, I understand where Stars fans are coming from and wanting to see Jake Oettinger, because of course you do. I'm sure Jake Oettinger wanted nothing more than to be the guy that was out there on the ice and be able to have that moment of glory. But when you perform the way that Hellebuck did, not just today, but throughout this run,
yeah.
And I think for Hellebuck, it's such a huge moment to shed that stigma, fair or unfair, that, oh, he can't hack it in big games. What game is ever going to be bigger than this one? And he absolutely not only hacked it, but had one of the more remarkable, miraculous saves we've ever seen, given the moment. That was an unbelievable sequence for him, and for all of it to come full circle for him and be able to shed that stigma. It's a pretty special story.
One of the storylines coming out of this game, obviously John Cooper stepped in, the head coach for Team Canada, a little bit with his comments afterwards, but it struck me too. I saw Daryl Ray's posted about this on Twitter. Why 3-on-3 in overtime with the gold medal on the line? Bob, what do you think of that?
No, I don't love it. In fact, one of the reasons I don't love it is it felt kind of slanted to Canada. If any team should absolutely have an absurd advantage on 3-on-3. It's like, this is why, honestly, the American that should have been on the team should have been Cole Caulfield, who's one of the best 3-on-3 guys in the entire NHL up there in Montreal. He would have been fantastic for the Americans, but we didn't bring him either. I don't know that Jason Robertson had the pace for today's game, to be completely honest. You know, and I don't mean to be unfair to the guy, but speed is not his game, and speed was this game. And so, you know, you wonder, but 3-on-3, I don't love it. I'll be real frank, it terrified me that they would throw McKinnon, McDavid, and Makar out for the first shift, which is exactly what they did.
It's crazy.
The fact that we survived it is insane. And I'm just happy the NHL is at the Olympics for the first time in 12 years. They will never miss the Olympics again, I'm guessing. And so all the rule changes that need to be made from here, I'm cool with, but I just need the tournament to happen all the time.
Yeah, and before we let this go, there are a couple of Texas ties that we have to mention. Connor Hellebuck, of course, part of his ascent included the Odessa Jackalopes when he was coming up. Can't forget about that part of his journey. And then, of course, the Hughes family. Wow, they have instantly become the first family of American hockey with Quinn and Jack. We talked about them, but of course, their mom is a developmental coach, Ellen Weinberg Hughes, who grew up right here in Dallas. In fact, she was the only female, the only girl on the hockey team. All the other girls were working on skating. She had on pads, and she was playing hockey back in the day, and she ends up the mom of these two young men who were absolutely instrumental in Team USA coming up with this watershed victory. I tell you, boys, if you wrote this script, Hollywood would throw it back in your face and start laughing because it couldn't be true, but it is. So yes, I still believe in miracles 46 years later. All right, we got to take another break, but Andrew's got a great game for us coming up.
Heck of a segue. That's all I'm going to say. Top 5 broadcast calls in sports history. Stay with us.
Not even on purpose.
And now it's time for the top 5.
Welcome back to the Ultimate Dallas Sports Show, and in honor of Team USA's gold medal performance, we thought it best to take a look back at part of what made 1980 so memorable. The call on the broadcast, Al Michaels famously delivering a line we all know and remember that Joe reminded us about a couple minutes ago. So tonight, we're looking back on the top 5 greatest sports calls in history. Now, point of contention before we begin, I wanted a list that immediately evoked an image of a moment and included a legend on the mic. It's got to have both of those to some degree. All right, we'll start with a classic. Down goes Frazier. Howard Cosell on the mic for George Foreman's dominant upset win over previously undefeated heavyweight champion Joe Frazier in 1973. Cosell repeated it 3 times on the first knockdown in shock. The call is so good, it's more famous than the fight itself in some ways, living on as a meme for boxing knockouts in general to reference for years to come. At number 4, in your life have you seen anything like that? The great Vern Lundquist on the 16th hole of the Masters for Tiger Woods' indelible chip shot in 2005. The end of the call is fantastic and memorable, but the way Lundquist built suspense with only 7 words prior to the ball dropping in, it's a masterclass in reading and expressing the moment happening in real time. At number 3, one that transcends generations. We'll see you tomorrow night. Originally said by the legendary Jack Buck in Game 6 of the 1991 World Series on Kirby Puckett's walk-off homer that forced a decisive Game 7, and the crowd noise took it the rest of the way on that night, and arguably one of the greatest World Series of all time, but made better, or worse if you're a Rangers fan, sorry, because of Joe Buck bringing the call back 20 years later in 2011 when the Cardinals did it. At number 2, this is probably the classic textbook answer. The shot heard around the world. The Giants have won the pennant. Shouted 4 times on October 3rd, 1951 by Giants broadcaster Russ Hodges. Bobby Thompson's dramatic walk-off 3-run homer in the bottom of the 9th to lead the Giants past the Dodgers in an historic rivalry. It's a great call that colors the fabric of baseball as we know it. But at number 1, it's the reason why we're doing the list. It's Al Michaels. Clock winding down in the 1980 Olympics shouting, "Do you believe in miracles? Yes, we still do." When the call is so good that in the Disney remake, they faded from modern Michaels to the original call because it couldn't be touched, that's magic. Guys, that's the list. Bob, lead us off here. Is there one that sticks out to you? What comes to mind?
Well, I mean, that list is fantastic. I also would throw Vin Scully in there for the Kirk Gibson home run. Yep. But there's obviously, this is one of the great things about sports, but I think that list is pretty great. Howard Cosell is the GOAT, and you're right. It is shorthand for any knockout that you see in boxing your whole life is down goes Frazier.
Mike, what do you think?
I think the list is basically perfect. It's the calls that stick out from that stand the test of time. There are so many that you could pick from, and it's interesting. And we were talking about the Packers during the commercial break. There's one that sticks out to me that was not a huge moment, legendary moment, but it's a call from Al Michaels that I remember, that you two, I'm sure, being Packers fans, both remember well. The Antonio Freeman catch.
He did what?
He did what?
That call sticks out in my brain as much as any. But yeah, in terms of the enormity of the moment, the list is absolutely what it is.
I think you knocked it out the park. I think the list was varied. You got a lot of different sports in there, a lot of different great broadcasters. I might switch the baseballs of it all that you had in there, because I do that. Man, I
know. Listen,
that Kirk Gibson, when he's just kind of going around and pumping his fist, and you're like, how did he do that? He can barely walk, and he goes yard. That would be the only thing I would even consider. But I mean, other than that, I think it's great, and kudos for you for getting the great Vern Lundquist in there, of course, an alumnus of this fantastic TV station, WFAA. So good on you for being brand loyal and being and
it was
staying
not
on
intentional.
brand.
It was just a great moment.
It's very well done. It's very well done. Hey, listen, Mike, Bob, thanks so much. Great show tonight. Appreciate the time. Bob, especially you. Thanks for getting on the show despite the late call. We appreciate it.
Anytime the U.S. wins gold, let's do it again.
Sounds great.
See you in 46 years. No, just 4. Just 4. Just
4 to 6 years.
That's
4
right.
to 6 years. Joe's Final Take coming up next. And we're sitting here breaking down options on the list. I mean, it's tough to narrow down. One, I thought the band was on the field, didn't make it, probably should have to some degree, but that's the fun of it.
Young scores.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, the great Keith Jackson.
What are you going to do? Joe's Final Take.
This is a big thank you to Ellen Weinberg Hughes, who grew up right here in Dallas and began a love of hockey that has produced one of the most incredible moments in American sports history. Right here in Dallas, when no other little girls were in that rink playing hockey, Ellen Weinberg Hughes was there because she loved the sport. She was also great at soccer. And being great at those two sports, once she got into college, they let her play lacrosse, something she had never played before, and she dominated in that too. So thank you so much, Miss Hughes, for setting it all up and getting us here at this moment.
It's been really fun seeing the Texans perform at these Olympics. Amber Glenn, obviously, top 5 in the individual skate, but thinking that she was skating at Stonebriar, where I grew up. I mean, people find ice. Wherever it is, that's the important thing to take away. And usually they're rewarded for it in the long run.
No doubt, and thank goodness that Ellen Weinberg Hughes found that ice. Great stuff. All right, we appreciate you joining the show tonight. Thanks so much for your time. We will see you later, but that is it for tonight. For Andrew Cely, I'm Joe Trahan, and that is the Ultimate Dallas Sports Show.
This has been the Ultimate Dallas Sports Show, sponsored by your North Texas Chevy dealers. Together, let's drive.